Welcome to episode 8 of this special series of short videos covering the 2025 budget announcements. Today, we're looking at a change to the anti-avoidance rules surrounding share reorganisations. A company or group may need to reorganise its shareholding or business operations for various reasons. For example, in preparation for sale to an external party, because the separation of diverse businesses would have tax or accounting benefits, to separate a loss-making part of a company from the rest of it, or to resolve a deadlock in an owner-managed company. There are several mechanisms by which a reorganisation can be achieved, and more than one may have to be used. Special rules can apply where shares in one company are exchanged for shares in another company. As no cash changes hands, no capital gains tax or corporation tax is payable, and this is known as a paper-for-paper transaction. Instead of being crystallized, the gain is rolled over into the new shares. However, this is subject to anti-avoidance rules which prevent the special treatment from applying, but the anti-avoidance rules do not apply if the transaction is carried out for bona fide commercial purposes. The scope of the anti-avoidance rules for corporate reconstructions and reorganisations involving an issue of shares or debentures made on or after 26 November 2025 has been extended, where additional arrangements are put in place to avoid or reduce liability to capital gains tax or corporation tax. The entire transaction will fall outside the paper-for-paper rules, which roll over the gain, irrespective of the main commercial purpose of the overall scheme. The bona fide commercial requirement has been withdrawn. HMRC will be able to better target those who intentionally enter into such arrangements and make adjustments as necessary, therefore not disapplying the rollover relief in relation to those individuals' entities who did not benefit from the avoidance. However, minority shareholders owning less than 5% could now be subject to HMRC's counteraction. Thankfully, there are some minor transitional provisions in place. Clearance applications received by HMRC before the 26th of November 2025 will be assessed under the old rules where the shares and debentures are issued either by the 26th of January 2026 or, if later, within 60 days of HMRC's approval of the clearance application, so long as it was submitted by midnight on the 25th of November 2025. This is likely to put significant pressure on pending transactions to complete over the next month or so. Let's look at a quick example. ACOM is selling shares to BCOM. BCOM is proposing to pay partly in cash and partly in ordinary shares, but deferring payment is in its interest due to the cash flow advantage. If ACOM receives cash, it is subject to corporation tax, but if it receives loan notes or shares, the tax isn't payable until they're disposed of. ACOM counteroffers with consideration partly in ordinary shares and partly in redeemable preference shares, purely because if it waits 12 months, it will qualify for the substantial shareholding exemption and won't pay corporation tax on the redemption of preference shares. BCOM agrees to this as it won't have to pay out for at least 12 months. Previously, the share-for-share rules could apply to this transaction because the overarching purpose of the transaction as a whole is commercial. ACOM is selling shares to a third party, and the tax advantage of the redeemable preference shares is a minor part of that. However, now that the anti-avoidance provisions have been tightened, ACOM can't rely on the commercial purpose argument because HMRC can pick apart each element of the transaction and disapply the special rules to the preference shares aspect. This is because the main reason for the arrangement is to avoid corporation tax. As the rules came into force on budget day, opportunities are limited to those that had already submitted clearance applications. Implementing the restructuring within the set timeframes will be crucial in those cases. For future transactions, applying for clearance well in advance will be crucial rather than optional. As the rules are new and drawn widely, it isn't yet clear how strictly HMRC will apply them in practice, and as such, it will be desirable to have more time to negotiate and resubmit clearance applications as necessary.
That's it for the 8th episode of this budget special series. If you are watching on our YouTube channel, don't forget to like and subscribe so you receive notifications of future episodes. Please do take a look at our one-stop web shop. where you can find all of our tax solutions in one place. The link is shown below.